And boom.
Okay. Do you have a button?
We're live.
Do you have a button?
Yeah, I've got a button. It's pressed.
Good. All right.
You're late, sir.
I told them what happened, but must have been that Makers thing. Well, whatever. Anyway, let's leave that behind us.
Time on the show. And this
Oh, when he beat me to it.
is Serene.
Damn it.
Then you're gone.
He beat me to it.
It's a very...
Oh, I had my big one all set up here. Let me just hit it for the...
It is a much bigger gong. I can see.
It is not the size of the gong.
It's not the size. All right.
Okay, I've actually... No,
I told them what oh, and I've got my speaker on, as usual. Well, whatever. Anyway. How is that on?
Hiko predicted that your speaker would be on too loud.
Yes.
Actually, this one.
Where is it? I don't know where that window is, though. I actually don't have a window open. That's bizarre.
That's good. That's probably why you're not getting any drafts.
Now it's stopped. That's strange. Okay, well.
Okay, let me just save our bandwidth by pressing that, and we're good to go. So everybody, I do appreciate if everyone could just retweet this, since we've got a different link to the original one, and let the refugees find their way over here. We are live. I am with the Mr. Jake Adelstein, which reminds me a bit of the Young Frankenstein thing. Sorry, you must get that a lot. I won't
all my life, but it's all right.
Oh. Really? People actually say that?
Stein.
So yes, great to finally have you on. I mean, you have a very good, you have a talent for building expectation.
Wow, now I'm gonna betray all those expectations, but I'm sorry. I've said I would be on this a couple times, and it has not worked out.
No. I
but
think
it's nice to finally be here, and we are in my house because I thought it would be nice to have something Japanesey.
Turn my volume up. Okay, my volume's on max. We'll put this closer.
All right. No, it's pretty good. Sounds good.
Yeah. So Hikosaemon, by the way, I gotta say, Hikosaemon, I'm very disappointed in you. I was expecting blood between you and Unrested, and I feel deceived and used. That's just a personal commentary.
I don't. Jake, you have no idea who we're talking about, do you?
I told him a bit about him earlier. I told him about the pickup artist.
They know who you are, though.
Oh, I heard about this poor fellow, but I don't know.
Poor fellow.
So actually, he built up this whole pro wrestling thing. He was going to get into a fight with one of the Rage Mob guys against the Julian thing, and they had this huge fight on this hangout just before this. And as usual, and you, Victor, you're responsible for this as well, because you totally made me believe that it was real.
I'm a much better actor than either of those guys.
So they didn't have a fight?
No.
No fight, no. But I want to thank Jake. In your honor, I'm gonna open up a bottle of Suntory Hakushu. It's not the best stuff, but it's at least Japanese whiskey.
Hakushu is really good. I've got like a bottle of Kubota and a bottle of somewhere in this house, which is pretty good sake. And I think I got wait a second. I had a Bonenkai the other day, and we had a really good sake, which was.
You're already starting your Bonenkais?
Yeah. People get really busy.
Yeah.
Especially Tokyo's finest. I mean, they get busy really quickly.
Well, this is and I've decided to use a sake glass to sip from. I usually sip my whiskey, but.
I think I'm on max for my mic, and people are saying that this mic is too low and yours is too high. We've got a bit of a difference by the sounds of it. Can you turn the levels down on your mic?
Sure. Just a second. This is. You're using Jake's computer today, right?
So I'm gonna do this kind of roving reporter style. I'm actually just gonna.
Okay.
Kind of like that. That sort of feels very 1940s.
Yes, I'm a 1940s.
Okay, how's this? Is this better?
I wouldn't know.
We wouldn't know.
You still look the same. But anyway, so
nothing you can do about that.
We have Jake. So I don't know. I mean, this is it. We'll leave your questions in the comments. I mean, we've got lots of topics, but we'll also try to pay attention to the wave of comments that are going through. But yeah. So I guess first thing is Tokyo Vice. So we've both read the book, and I was all set to do a book report about 6 months ago.
Yes, me too. I wanted to ask you about on page 193. You.
Where were you on that night at that? I do have a question. I've got a question to ask.
Shoot.
There was one moment in the whole book, I have to admit, I threw up my hands and I said bullshit.
Okay.
So
We're
when
going to start off with like sort of like a
Yeah, let's just start.
one of those
Attack.
really easy questions.
we get straight to the bullshit. That's what
No
we're.
softballs on this show.
Well, yeah, I go ahead, throw the
Well,
dead
I'm an
ball at
old.
my head.
I'm an old
Go
man.
ahead.
I'm an old man. But,
Okay.
Hiko's good at
no, no.
softballs.
And I guess, and I actually said this in my review on it. Was this just a literary device to ease to guide the reader into the world of Vice and Shinjuku when you got the tour of Shinjuku? And this was after you'd worked in Saitama for like doing Vice or whatever for a few years, and you go to Shinjuku, you're getting the tour, and you raise your hand in a press conference in front of everybody.
I remember.
Vice squad in Shinjuku, and you asked, "What is Honban?" Come on.
Yeah,
Really?
I never heard the word hombang. I mean, I know that what sexual
But
massage was, but I never heard a police say hombang. I mean, I didn't even know there was like a difference because you know it's not something that you hear cops talk about, and it's not something that you. I mean, okay, I wouldn't want to talk about too much of my past. You walk into a you know, it's not like I frequented the sex shops all the time, so I'm asking, oh, can I get hombang?
Oh, how do you know Honban? That's your response. It's like I didn't know that. How did you know that? Well, wait a minute. But
I didn't know Honban either. I just thought it meant not the rehearsal, but the real thing.
But because the question was like, the question is like, okay, what is the crime here? And I believe the crime was like having sex in front of people rather than actually, which would be public indecency rather than actually.
Right.
So,
Okay.
so you know, and hombon itself, well, it's illegal. The Japanese prostitution laws are you can't punish the customer, you can't punish the woman, you can only punish the pimp or the brothel owner.
You can't.
No, really.
I thought that's when they do those raids all the time.
No.
Or the sort of foreign women. It's the immigration stuff they get.
Yeah, that's a visa.
Okay.
Look, the Japanese law says it's illegal, but there's no punishment for the woman. There's no punishment for the man. Now, if the woman is soliciting on the streets, she can be arrested. That's the Baishun Boshiho, Bible hole, which was originally designed to keep families from selling their daughters into sexual slavery after the war. That was like Japan's first anti-trafficking law.
Right. And by the way, speaking of which, that's another kind of thing you've become involved in since the book as well, isn't it? The anti-trafficking.
Human trafficking.
To Japan's credit, not to my credit. Since like 2008, I mean, the trafficking of foreign women in Japan, it still happens, but it's nothing like it was. I mean, when you put a law on the books and you make the penalties very high, is that beeping? So I'm going to keep coming on.
You know what? That's okay. That is actually probably Facebook, which I'll shut down now that Victor's here. So yes, pay no attention.
It doesn't bother me, but I thought it might bother people.
I'll shut that down. Yep. Keep going.
So, you know, the influx of foreign women has drastically gone down since the Japanese government put laws on the books. And then, you know, one of the biggest, you know, we're talking way back in the past year, was the Zenkoku Geino Jin Shohei Gaikoku Jin Geino Ren Nakukai Zengeiren. Yeah. Which basically this sort of human trafficking lobby group that keep bringing in foreign women as entertainers.
It sounds like a foreign agency.
But they used to have their annual meeting at the LDP headquarters, and I believe that Prime Minister Abe, yes, definitely hosted one of their meetings. So they would come there and
the
have
Human Trafficker Club?
They wouldn't call it the Human Trafficker Club. There were a couple people there with past histories of being in the Yakuza, but they were bringing in foreign entertainers. They were like, you know, registered like
belly dancers,
dancers, cultural exchanges.
Well, it's cultural. Yeah.
And you know, and as people started looking at human trafficking and realized that these guys were conduits for basically bringing in women as prostitutes, they sort of disappeared, and they certainly stopped having their meetings at LDP headquarters.
Yeah.
They disappeared.
I mean, they used to have a homepage. They used to have this great. I'm like, if you're a reporter, right, and you're researching human trafficking, the Zengeiren page was great because they would have, like, you know, an article about the Nagoya immigration office is really strict these days. You know, they're just busting people right and left, as if to say, like, hey, don't send your girls through Nagoya.
Oh, okay. Well, let me ask a couple. Let me have a couple questions and just your reaction. Okay, in 1993, I just left my friend, female friend, just a friend, walking away at the subway. It was about midnight, and as I get about 2 blocks away, and a black car comes up to her. Guy jumps out of the car, grabs her, and tries pulling her in. She starts screaming. I run after the car, yelling. I scare the guy off. He runs away. They speed off in a black car, black tinted windows. Okay, how common is that? And that was I'd been in Nagoya about 6 months, less than 6 months when that happened.
You know, I've never lived in Nagoya. Nagoya is home of the Yamaguchi Mikodo Kai, which is a pretty rough bunch.
I lived in that area, actually.
So I can't say how common that is because I've never lived in Nagoya. I mean, in 1993, the organized crime laws were just getting on the books, and the Yakuza were still really belligerent and not afraid of anything. I mean, that changed over the years.
Well, what about women just getting kidnapped, especially I guess Western women? People talk about that, but
I haven't heard anything like that since the 90s. I mean, I think anything's possible, but not now. And remember, I was a college student in '93. I'm just starting as a reporter.
I mean, what kind of a question is that, honestly? So where were you on that night? You looking up your movements? Like, seriously,
I don't know how common it is. Is it a common thing? Is it something that women have to worry about? Or?
I don't think so.
Women worry about things. They take one incident and they blow it up, So.
There was an incident. So I surf, right? So I like to say I surf. I haven't surfed in 5 or 6 years, but I used to surf. And I remember once I'd meet up with my friends. My friends would pick me up in Chiba somewhere, and they'd come up in their van, their Astro panel van, which is a very typical vehicle for surfers to use.
And for serial killers, but yeah.
Yeah. So I remember I was coming up. My friends were pulling up at like the taxi stop. It was a very nice looking girl kind of standing on the edge of the taxi stop, and I was walking up to it, and this van kind of came up, and the guys kind of slid open the door, and I was just walking up, and this girl who just happened to be in between us at the time, she turned around, she saw me, and she just bolted and ran away. I mean, it's like she thought she was going to get kidnapped or something. I kind of like, holy shit, what do I look like?
Maybe you probably look like a North Korean. That's probably
that would be it. I have that effect on people sometimes.
She was just thinking like I'm going to end up in along with everybody else who's been abducted along the coast.
Are you seeing the comments on?
Isn't it amazing? I'm going to change the subject here, but I'm really ashamed to say that for years I thought this thing about the North Koreans abducting Japanese people and people, to train as spies was total BS. Sort of like a right-wing myth. And when Koizumi actually came back with people and it turned out that it was true, I was like, I'm so glad that I never actually voiced that opinion, because man, I would have been looked like a real dickhead. Not that I haven't looked like a dickhead before, but on the abduction of people by North Korea, I just couldn't believe it was true.
I got into those debates myself around that time before Koizumi brought them back. And I was always on the why would you say that the Yokota family are right wing, stooges, like a lot of people were saying. I'm like, geez, they had their daughter kidnapped and you're calling them right wing stooges. But there was kind of a debate, and it was just an idea. It was just a debate. Is it true or is it not? And when it happened, I was one of the guys like, dude, the guys who I was having the debates with, I hope you're watching this. But geez, I mean, but at the same time, I mean, the thing that the North Koreans always said is, why would we abduct people when they could just ask us and we would help them? I mean, this is one of the things that they would talk about. There's 300,000 people here. If they ask us politely, of course we'll teach you what it's like to be Japanese. But the fact that it showed that they didn't even trust their own people here, that they would do something crazy like that.
I mean,
that is weird.
The Koreans here who still have relatives in North Korea. I mean, this is how it was a couple years ago. Maybe it's changed. They basically have their families held hostage, and the Chosen Soren comes to their houses every now and then with a letter from the family like, oh, we're eating grass because you're not supporting the motherland.
You're not sending enough money over.
And then they make donations.
Yeah.
They used to carry, cash on the Mangyongbong. Yeah. So you mean basically North Korea keeps the Japanese Koreans there who went back, who repatriated, as perpetual hostages, and as long as those people are alive, the people with North Korean relatives in North Korea are paying ransom money on a regular basis. It's really, it's an awful country, right? I don't have to be a right-winger to say that North Korea is a terrible criminal empire.
Yeah, which isn't a mistake for the people who you got to feel sorry for.
Oh, you're saying you'd like to go and visit?
Yeah, not really. I do want to sort of see that giant hotel they opened up that's like...
Which is incomplete, but the big pyramid thing, yeah.
But seriously, as a reporter, aren't you curious? Wouldn't you love to go there and get a tour and, I don't know, write about it?
Is that like... I'm sorry.
Yeah, I don't speak any Korean, so I don't know if I'd really get much out of it, and all I would get is what the North Korean government's propaganda is. So
that would be what the trip is. It's
it'd be a tool, I guess, by accident, unwittingly.
Yeah, I'd probably get out. I'm assuming, but then again, yes, there's people don't get out. Yeah. It's not a high. If there was some higher purpose in going, then I could actually. But what would you discover? We already know that North Korea is a terrible place. They manufacture drugs. They'll do anything that they can to make money. There are concentration camps where they put political dissenters or people who
3 generations.
are awful. I mean, what new could I discover?
Expose on the bad things North Korea does. Yeah, you'd probably that's a pretty well covered story.
Yeah,
you could make a YouTube video. That's about it.
Make a video. Send it back to us.
Change the world.
Can you check out my channel? I was in North Korea. A 4K GoPro. Strap it on your head and walk around.
It's such a shame that North Korea isn't rich in oil or natural resources, because then the United States would go in and liberate them. But unfortunately, they don't have anything.
Nobody wants anything. Let's I've got some notes that I took back in May when I thought we were going to talk to you. So your name is Jake. It's pronounced Jake Adelstein.
Yep.
Is that right?
Stein.
Adelstein. Okay, Adelstein. How do you pronounce your home state? Because everyone we're talking about.
Wait, let me answer this. If I am in St. Louis talking to my college-educated friends, it is Missouri. If I am back in McBain, Missouri, talking to maybe not college-educated friends, it's Missouri. So,
Missouri. Really? People say that? Missouri. Okay.
Missouri. Some people even say Mizzou. I'm from Mizzou.
Okay. I got some questions for you, if you don't mind. Let me just indulge me, okay? What does your name mean? What does Missouri mean?
Missouri?
His name isn't Missouri.
I know that, but I mean the state. What is the state? What do you know the meaning of the state?
I know the meaning of my name in German means noble stone, like noble.
No, I'm sorry. The name of the state, Missouri.
The name of the state, Missouri.
Yes. Just a little quiz on your hometown.
Oh, gee, I don't know. We used to joke that it was Missouri, right? Columbia, Missouri.
That's what I figured you'd say, but it's actually River of the Big Canoes. I did a little research on this.
River of
the Big Canoes. It's Algonquin Indian. It's an Algonquin Indian word that means River of the Big Canoes.
This is
just curious.
I have a big canoe. I haven't.
Hey, baby, I'm from Missouri.
Yeah, it's the show me state, right? Show me your big canoe.
What is your state fish?
I don't know. Pike, catfish.
Channel catfish. Yeah, very good. Catfish. You got it.
It was catfish. Oh, okay.
Wow. You got one. Right. Your state motto is Salus Populi Suprema Lex Esto. What does it mean?
I might know this. I'd study that. Say that again.
If anybody knows Latin, I don't know either.
Show me the evidence or show me the door.
The welfare of the people shall be the supreme law. Close enough.
That was pretty close.
Close enough. No, just some curious words. Right? Okay, Misera. Well, that was the big one actually. But... Okay. Back to you, Hiko. little time out from. I wanted to get away from the heavy topic for a second.
There's nothing else to talk about now.
Here, just to kill some time, I brought some stuff. Here are the books on my desk because I read a lot.
Oh yeah, people want to know that. Yeah.
So
this is the only book on my desk.
Let him ask the questions himself.
This is one of my favorites about a superhero Buddhist monk.
Join us as Jake interviews Jake.
Yeah, I'm going to interview myself because I'm a reporter and I know myself.
What is that book?
This is Kujakul, who is like one of my favorite heroes. He is. This is really old. He basically is a monk that goes off and fights evil by saying. I don't know what the angels are doing in here, but I think the angels are bad.
It's cross-denominational. And
kind of evil is non-denominational. This is one of my favorite books called Ninkyo Juku. This is like a history of the Yakuza of several groups, including the Aizu Kotetsukai, which is one of the oldest groups in Kyoto. Actually, Nintendo may have gotten their name partly from this group.
So,
but
can I ask you really just general stuff about Yakuza? Because I honestly, I know a little bit. I don't really know a lot to talk about it. So how many, I know that there are hundreds of small subgroups and whatnot, but in terms of big organizations like the Sumiyoshi-kai and the whatever, how many Yakuza organizations are there in the country?
There are now, I believe, 21 Yakuza organizations. There's 21. Let's see, the Kyushu Seido-kai got dissolved and it came back as another group, so I'll have to check whether they're listed as a designated organized crime group. Yeah. The Kudo-kai, which is in Kyushu, they are probably going to dissolve by the end of the year, which will bring it down to 21 or 20. Yeah. The three main ones are, of course, the Yamaguchi-gumi, which has their offices in Kobe. They've got about, there used to be, pardon me, that was really rude. There used to be about 40,000, now they're down about 20,000.
Still a lot.
They recently had opened their offices not only like they put up a homepage, they had like a Halloween party and they let in the local kids, but they've been doing that for years.
Right.
They used to give the kids money. I think they gave them candy this year.
Halloween party in Japan. That's a first for kids.
It was a big story actually. That for the local, there are lots of foreign kids in the neighborhood. They're kind of in a swanky neighborhood. Right?
I have a friend, a reporter whose name I will not say because I don't ever be her to be tinged as someone who took money from the Yamaguchi-gumi, even though she was probably 7 years old when she took it.
Oh my
went
God.
by. Knocked on the
To
door.
take candy from the Yamaguchi-gumi.
Some big goon opens the door, or let's say a lovable humanitarian warrior opens the door and sees the kids, and they're like trick or treat. He's like, doesn't know what to do, so he just takes out his wallet and he gives each of them like 1,000 yen, and the kids leave.
Just a tip for all the foreigners watching this: do never go up to a Yakuza and say trick or treat, because honestly, you don't want to know what the trick is going to be. But and actually, Yamaguchi Gumi, that could be like a sweet they could give away. They could market that.
The Yamaguchi
Gumis.
I would try that once.
So then there's the Sumiyoshikai, which is Sumiyoshikai made news this year when the vice president, or I guess the Fukaicho is the vice chairman of the Japan Olympic Committee. Picture of him with the head of the Sumiyoshikai showed up. I reported on that, so did the Japanese press, in kind of one of those reverse reportings, like according to the Daily Beast, this photo and this incident happened. So it's sort of interesting in Japan that you can have the Olympic Committee and have the number 2 be chummy with one of Japan's most famous organized crime bosses, but it's not an issue because that's Japan.
Well, but Frank Sinatra was,
Yeah, I guess, and the Yakuza are legal here in Japan. They are legal entities with offices and sort
Are
of.
they still really legal though?
Yeah. There's nothing illegal about being Yakuza. It's not a crime.
Well, they register them. I mean, they're regulated, I guess you could.
Yeah, they're regulated. It's like the SEC regulates Goldman Sachs. Goldman Sachs is legal. And
That's an interesting analogy.
Yeah, well,
yes, I'll point that
probably did more damage than the Yakuza ever did.
then the number 3 is the Inagawa Kai, which has a really long history. And their offices.
His dad was in, right?
He was in. Okay, I know people really. Very knowledgeable in Yakuza lore will get kind of angry when you say this, because he was in a group that was called that was later absorbed into the Inagawa Kai. Right. At the time, it was an independent group. Okay. The names have changed over the years. Right. It's essentially was the Yokosuka Ikka. So Koizumi's grandfather was called the Irizumi Daijin because he had covered in tattoos. So the group that his grandfather was in later became absorbed into the Inagawa Kai. Yeah. So to say that his father was in the Inagawa Kai his grandfather was in the Inagawa Kai would be incorrect.
Wouldn't be seen dead with those guys at the time. Okay.
Because they didn't even really exist at that time.
So what you're saying is that Koizumi's dad could probably have not got a job. Grandfather could probably have not gotten a job working for Hashimoto in the Osaka city offices.
Probably not got a job working for Hashimoto in the offices. Yeah, but I mean, the smart yakuza these days don't get tattoos, and Hashimoto himself is kind of. Yeah. I mean,
he's got an interesting background.
Well, he admits that his father was an organized crime.
Right.
And he's a guy who started as a lawyer for consumer loan companies. So he's basically Sarakin Bengoshi.
Wow.
And then he was also an advisor to a group of merchants in some area of Osaka, I forget the name, pardon me, which were basically you go into the first floor and then go up and have sex on the second floor, and he was their legal representation for some time. So, he's probably pretty tolerant of yakuza, but he's not tolerant of people flaunting their tattoos because it makes people uneasy.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you think about that? You remember when the Gaijin outraged that there was this fascist in Osaka who is asking people to show their tattoos, which kind of, because it's so common, I guess, overseas, he's so universally hated by foreigners, and I always.
Hikosaemon hates him for that reason, yeah.
Well, yeah. So.
Well, I'm just saying.
People don't really understand him very well. Not that people have to understand him, but I always kind of thought I find him an interesting character.
I give him points for having a shout out with that scummy low life cowardly sakurai of the Zaitoku Kai. Yeah. It was a street fight, but what are you going to do? I would have loved to have seen Hashimoto punch him out, but he didn't. No, he got he lost his temper, and maybe it's not good to lose your temper. What is that Japanese saying? Tanki wo sonki.
Yeah.
Tanki is short-tempered. What's sonki?
Sonki is losing.
Yeah.
Losing. Okay.
Like songai no son.
Songi. Got it.
Key. Yeah.
Losing your temper is losing.
My kanji writing in the air is
But
terrible.
it can mean short temper. It also just means impatience as well. You can say as well, tanki sonki. If you can't wait in line and you get out of the line, then you have to go to the back again, so you lose. So that's
Right. Okay.
patient.
All right.
Yes.
So how do you dissolve a Yakuza group? You said they were going to be dissolved. Or we have a meeting? What happened? What do you mean dissolved?
I'm sorry about that. Oh, nice. Oh, this is very nice. Look, I'll share. I'll send a tender moment. I just got a note from my daughter, which means I'm going to have to be really careful in what I say. Thank you so much. It really helped. I would have never finished it without you. Benefits of having a journalist dad. Thanks. Wow, I've actually been useful to my daughter. First time in years.
High five. There we go.
See, at least there's one person who doesn't think I'm an ass. Yep. Okay, so how do you dissolve? You turn in a notice saying we are dissolved. It's called a kaisan todoke, like we are dissolving.
Kaisan dissolving, like the Beatles, like Chaganaska.
Okay. Yeah, something like that. You actually go to the police and turn it in. Just like when somebody gets kicked out of the Yakuza, they fax a note to the police, like
really?
Yep.
You fax a note.
Yeah, and actually, what's really amazing is as soon as somebody gets arrested, miraculously, what appears to be possibly a post-dated expulsion letter goes to the police.
Oh, yeah.
So then when we write up the article as a reporter, like it's former Yakuza, right? It's never like current Yakuza.
Yeah.
I had a long...
How many former Yakuza are there?
There are tons of them. As soon as they get arrested, they're former Yakuza.
If it was this easy to get out of the Yakuza, I think they'd have trouble maintaining...
It's very easy to get out of the Yakuza.
Really?
You just don't pay your association dues, so you're gone.
Really?
Money.
It's not
in the States, you gotta like beat up everybody to get out, right? You go through a line of beatings.
No, it's money. You don't pay. Yakuza are franchises. You don't pay your franchise fees. You get out.
I assume that they're not patient about collection, however, of those fees. Not paying your fees, and they say, "Oh, you didn't pay your fees." I'm sorry to hear that.
I mean,
he's a good earner.
Here's this horrible cycle that people go: as the higher you rise up in the Yakuza, the more money you have to pay in association dues. So some of these guys rise up to a certain point, but then they're not making enough revenue to pay their dues, so they borrow from other Yakuza, or they borrow from loan sharks. Then they get further and further in debt, and eventually they still can't pay their dues. Then they get kicked out, and now they've got like loan sharks after them. And a lot of them end up like homeless, destitute, or working at nuclear power plants.
Yakuza are scared of home.
Well, it's the loan shark debts and so on as well. That's how they get guys to do stupid crimes that they're going to get. Sometimes they do that as well. That's why you pay off your debt by going and knocking someone off. They can manipulate people with the debt.
Yeah. I mean,
it's actually, this sounds very similar. So it sounds like the Yakuza structure is basically based on Amway.
Yeah, I would say that it's like a terrible evil franchise, right?
Yeah.
And there's a certain number of people that manage to rise to the top and do well, but basically, it's a terrible scheme in which everybody gets victimized, even the Yakuza themselves.
Yeah, I know people in it. This is Amway. This is it. We just have to Amway. They're at the top of the pyramid. They must be the ones. So people whenever people ask me about what's Kyushu like, and I always say you should think of Kyushu as being like the Sicily of Japan.
Yeah, that is actually. Can I steal that line?
Sure.
Yeah.
Take it.
Kyushu is the Sicily of Japan. When the Fukuoka Police Department decided, because the Yakuza wars there are incredible. I mean, that's the kind of stuff you see in movies like Outrage, where they're machine gunning each other. In Fukuoka, it got so bad. Yeah, they offered $1,000 a grenade. So I called up a friend who was in the Marines. And I'm like, dude, look, if you could just send a box to this locker, you and I, we could retire. Well, we couldn't retire, but we could probably live very well.
Go to Vegas for a week.
For more than a week, I think. But I think that was vetoed, and I wasn't really very serious about it.
Yeah.
A lot of people ask, can Gaijin get into the Yakuza? Have you ever known of that?
Yes. There was an Iranian in Saitama who was infamous for marrying into the Yakuza, and he was arrested this year.
Yeah, there are a couple of cases lately, right?
There was an American working for the Goto Gumi, Robert Whiting, who is an incredible author, and everyone should read Tokyo Underworld because it's a really good book tracing like post-war Yakuza, and also because if it hadn't been from Robert, I don't think my first book would have been published.
So you endorse another Yakuza writer?
Yeah, he's not.
No, he's not like in competition. I wouldn't be seen dead with that other Yakuza writer.
No, but Bob knows his stuff really well. I mean, he's got stuff in Tokyo Underworld that is just sensational. I mean, and he really knows Japan really well. But
Robert Whiting, right? Okay.
Robert Whiting. He also has a book called Tokyo Outsiders, which has never been translated in English, which is only in Japanese, in which I think there is a foreign Yakuza member from who's in the Goto Gumi who is mentioned. So You know, it's a meritocracy, and like 30% of the Yakuza are Korean Japanese. Then another 30% are burakumin, or outcast members of Japanese society.
Untouchables.
In Inagawa-kai, Sho Haruki-san was a really... Notice I'm adding a san here because I don't want to disrespect these people. Sho Haruki-san was, I think, from Taiwan, and he became a very powerful Yakuza boss.
Sadaharu, I'm not saying he was Yakuza, but yeah, he's from Taiwan, and he's the Japanese home run record. And don't ever say that's not a Japanese record. People get very sensitive about that. But yeah, Taiwanese people definitely...
Yeah, so, I mean, yes, you can, and there are. What you will never see, and I've never seen in any major organization, is a female Yakuza. It is a very misogynist society. It is completely patriarchal.
I didn't even think to ask that question.
In Kill Bill 1, there was clearly a female Yakuza. She spoke excellent Japanese, I'm pretty sure. It sounded a little bit strange, but I think it's authentic. I think it's legit.
In what movie?
Sorry, this has to be true. She became the head of the Yakuza world. Don't you know about this?
You're talking about Kill Bill, right?
Yeah, totally. She was like the whole boss of the entire Yakuza world.
Yeah.
And she was good looking.
Well, what are the most typical misconceptions of Yakuza out there that you've come across?
I think
the pinky finger, is that true? The pinky finger, you do something wrong to cut off the pinky finger?
Okay, first of all, it doesn't happen very much these days because they want to blend into society, and it's such an obvious tell. There's two reasons people did this. I mean, you chop off your finger because you fucked up. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, bad word. Okay, I owe my kids quarter. Because you've screwed up.
A quarter? $1, man. Come on.
Hey, like we started this like 7 years ago, right?
Okay.
Let's not factor in inflation. So when you screw up and you have basically a choice of getting whacked or getting kicked out of the organization, or you have an incredible debt that you can't pay, you chop off your finger, and that's called a shiniyubi, a dead finger, because you're doing it to screw up, to atone for your own screw up.
Mm-hmm.
Now, like let's say your underling under you, let's say Hiko over here does something terribly embarrassing, like praises Ishihara on the program, and and everybody is saying like fire Hiko, never put him on the program again. How can he praise that right-wing jerk?
Right.
And then you say you chop off your finger and present it to the audience and say, please accept this for Hiko's mistake. Then that is a noble act. That is a ikiyubi, a living finger. So that's considered a pretty cool thing to do.
It's the same act, but depending on the reason, it's either a shiniyubi or ikiyubi.
Yeah, and within that small world, everybody knows. This was Ishii Susumu, chairman, our chairman Ishii Susumu, who was the second generation leader of the Inagawa-kai. He cut off one of his fingers because his Kyodaibun was going to be expelled from the Inagawa-kai, and that was considered a very noble act. And actually, what was an ikiyubi ended up being a shiniyubi because the person that he was trying to get spared from being expelled got into a fight with the wrong person, Machi-san of the Tosei-kai, and was expelled from the Inagawa-kai anyway. And I think he might have even tried to chop off another finger, but the head of the Inagawa-kai was like, no, we're kicking this guy out. Sorry that you lost your finger on this dude, but it's over.
Right.
Yeah, I actually had a friend in New Zealand who was from Fukuoka, and her father apparently once had a machine accident. As well.
Sure he did. He
had a legitimate accident that just happened to chop off his pinky.
And give him a whole sleeve of tattoos at the same time, I bet.
Well, apparently every day he has to explain 20 times that no, this is from an accident involving like farm equipment. But it does make it kind of difficult for those people.
I dated a girl for a short time here in Nagoya whose father was who was ex-Yakuza, and she had basically her mother divorced him, and she had very little contact with him, but they were ashamed of him, and actually he lived in Fukuoka. Yeah, but he had a prosthetic. Okay. He had a prosthetic finger.
Yeah, they had that, the rings with the prosthetics.
Yeah, I have a friend, Jim. Who actually found one in the park. I believe it was Jim. And I remember seeing that photo and thinking, wow, that's a pretty amazing find to find in the park. And it wasn't like a really fake one. I mean, it was a really good prosthetic finger.
Yeah.
But the tattoos and that they are all missing fingers is a misconception. Even the sort of fashion that we used to associate with them. I mean, now these guys look like very well-dressed businessmen, the ones that survive. More and more of them are leaving because you just can't make money. And you can't have a bank account. You can't get insurance. Changes in the law since 2011 have made being a Yakuza a huge pain in the ass.
It isn't easy. It isn't easy.
So why don't you just become an immoral businessman like other people?
I think that's what they end up doing.
Yeah. Well, you know, this is a thing. So the money, they have a problem laundering the money, right? They want to buy a house with it, but there's all these restrictions on what they can do with it. So they try to put it through investments into businesses.
Pachinko?
Well, pachinko is kind of an old-fashioned way, but during the IT boom after 1999, and you know all of these small startup companies that were looking for money and they couldn't get money from banks to do it. And I know a lot of people in the IT world who, when their IT businesses collapsed, they had pretty scary people coming after them to get their money.
I mean, one of the first companies to be listed on Mother's Market was Liquid Audio, and Liquid Audio was infiltrated by the Yakuza.
Yeah, a lot of them.
You had Japan's, in 2007, the equivalent of Classmates.com, which was called Yubitoma. It was taken over by a member of the Kodokai, from people from your territory.
Yubitoma, like this one?
Yeah, like Yubitomare, like kono Yubitomare, like meaning so you're looking through your, like your, you know, it had 3.6 million members. And that was sort of like Classmates.com. It was one of the first really big, it was a website designed to set up class reunions. And then one day, you know, I mean, I must have been surprised for about 3 million people to wake up and go like, oh, like all my private information is in the hands of the Yakuza.
Which is not good.
Yeah. So I think was Robert Feldman of Morgan Stanley, who was an economist for them, once called the Yamaguchi-gumi Japan's second largest private equity group, and they are savvy investors sometimes, and they like to gamble.
Yeah.
And if you have lots of money to launder, and no restrictions on how you use that money, and you can also use insider information, you could probably make a fair amount of money.
And Japan, it was only like a year ago that they actually started regulating insider information. It was actually Daewoo made half their money by tipping off their favorite investors. But,
I couldn't comment on that because I don't want to be sued, but that could be true.
Well, it was actually, I mean, they only just started regulating it. I'm thinking of time a little bit. This is great, and we could go on forever like this. But I see you've got a couple more books, which I'd like to see the books, and I'd like to mention how you are going to be writing another book about Harry Potter.
I'm not writing a book about Harry Potter.
Oh, I'm sorry. Is Harry Potter making a movie about you, or are you writing a book about Harry Potter?
My first
Daniel Radcliffe, I believe is
Radcliffe, Mr. Radcliffe.
He'll always be Harry to me.
Yeah, I told my daughter if you meet him, you cannot call him Harry Potter because he's really sensitive about that. He's trying to outgrow that role.
Is he?
And she quipped, well, then I'll call him Potter-san. That won't work either.
It is more respectful. I give your daughter credit for coming up with that.
As far as I know, the movie is on track. Daniel read the book. Dan read the book. He liked it. His talent agency represents my books to film rights, so it was a nice symbiotic relationship. The producer, John Lesher, actually studied at Sophia University in Japan in his youth before going into the movies. His wife's Taiwanese. He speaks Japanese pretty well.
Who speaks Japanese pretty well?
John Lesher, the producer of the film.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I thought you meant Daniel Radcliffe.
And his last film, Fury, opened a really good box office, and he made.
Oh, he did great. Kicked ass.
With Michael Keaton, called Birdman, that looks really interesting.
Oh, I really want to see that. Yeah, it looks really good.
Yeah, so he's got a golden touch, and he's really nice. And the director, Anthony Mandler, has done mostly music videos, and I'm sort of culturally out of tune with things, so the first time we met and talked, I didn't know who Rihanna was, which was slightly embarrassing.
She's the one with the butt that does all the wobbling videos. No,
they all have butts that do wobbling videos. That's a prerequisite. Daniel Radcliffe is only 5'5".
Well, so's Tom Cruise.
You know, but yeah, so's Tom Cruise. Yeah.
You're like 5'10". You're like 5'10", right?
I'm 5'10".
Before we go to the book, that just made me think of a question, by the way, as well.
Why do I know that?
If you were to recommend a full Yakuza-themed movie to anyone out there who wants to know about Yakuza, you've seen a lot of.
Yeah, give us some recommendations.
Yakuza bullshit, right? You know, what's your recommendation? This is
okay.
What I recommend to.
Mito Takeshi. Yeah, what do you?
I'm gonna recommend 3 films.
3 films.
All right.
Okay.
I'm writing these down.
I'm gonna recommend 4 films. Can I actually go get the videos off the wall? You can.
He can do a dance while he's gone. Do some butt.
You can hear the books that I'm reading. You can make wise ass comments on them one too.
Yes. So.
Show us the one with the big boobies.
This is This is the Mabel thing, right? So this is talking about the the records of people's names and stuff that Yakuza love to get to basically.
So Hiko, while he stepped away, let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
Does he smell good?
Oh, he actually showered and he shaved. He was actually worried about his teeth before. He's sitting next to a New Zealander and he's an American.
I knew it. Why would he bother? Yes.
Seriously.
Okay, back to the books.
Yes, the books. So we have Zaitin. He writes for this. This is a magazine, weekly. It's not a weekly though, is it? It's periodical, monthly. He writes for this, but yeah.
Centerfold? No.
Actually, no. It doesn't have boobies. This one doesn't have boobies, does it?
No.
No. So it's respectable.
This one doesn't have boobies.
Intellectual material, and he writes for it. What else we have here? We have the multi. I'm not even going to say that. I'm just going to show this to the camera and remain silent.
By Julian Blanc. No.
I'm sorry. You got me with that one. That was a good one. Factor. I don't know Factor. What is Factor?
Oh, Factor's a really good subscription-based magazine. The one that brought down the Olympus scandal.
Brought down the Olympus scandal.
Factor you. Factor me. Factor everybody.
Please. Keep the level up. And what is this? Nihon e Toki Jiku. Japanese family culture.
It's about the white bird. Oh, Japanese. Oh, those are funny. Yeah.
That's a great classic.
I have those. I have one of those. Yeah.
They're really funny in an unintentional way. Like this one section here called. Hold on.
I don't have mine here, but that was cool.
Dropping a finger.
No. It has like Oh yeah. It's like that's a section like
Yeah, here we go. There you go. Very similar. Same group.
Yeah, like.
Oh, he's got
like where's Dad?
He's working.
Oh, he's working and drinking with his clients. Dad often arrives home late at night with only sleep on his mind. The fate for some is karoshi, death from overwork. Another possibility, not so extreme.
This is pretty normal.
Is posting far away. The wife and kids often stay behind. Yet another possible fate is not wanted at home. This can lead to sorrows drowned in alcohol, alone every evening at some bar.
Damn, this is good.
At the end of the company road is retirement with no idea of what to do at home. This does nothing for self-esteem. It's like this awful book with these illustrations of Japanese life. That is.
Which number in the series is that?
This is Japanese family and culture.
What's the series? There's a number in the series. Is it number 17 or is it?
They made 17 of these. Wow.
Yeah, I've got number 1. See, look at number 1 right there.
And over time,
that's what's more interesting. They became looser. This one's pretty formal, actually. The first one.
They keep updating them as time goes by.
They're funny. They're really good. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, back to the Yakuza films. So you asked me what my
recommended
recommendations
Yakuza films. He has them here. Let's have a look.
So first of all, Outrage, really good look at the modern.
With Bito Takeshi, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm glad
I would say that Outrage 1 and 2 are really good. This is the modern Yakuza. I mean, good stuff. Some of it, which you think is like totally outlandish, like there's a scene where a grenade is thrown into a Yakuza office. That's straight out of our friends in Fukuoka. So the backstabbing and lack of honor and horrible manipulative politics and things, it really sort of captures the worst of the modern Yakuza. There's even an incident where they blackmail someone at an embassy, like an African embassy, to setting up an illegal casino within the embassy, and that is based on a true incident. Yeah. So it's well researched.
Beat Takeshi, though.
Beat Takeshi Kitano, when he was younger, was very close with the head of people in the Inagawakai. Okay. As a matter of fact, he did an interview with the founder of the Inagawakai in Shukan and Shincho Yonjugo like years ago. Yeah. But from 2005, he's pretty much cut off his ties to the Yakuza. But he knows these people, and he knows a lot about them. And in his book, Takeshi versus Takeshi, or something like that, or Kitano on Kitano, he talks about how the Yakuza have always been sort of the hidden power in Japanese government. He talks specifically about the Inagawakai and how that's changed. Anyway, these two are really good movies about the Yakuza. This is hard to find. It's called Onibi.
Onibi. Okay.
Onibi.
I think it's
It's directed by the person who did Battle Royale, but I'm not sure.
Battle Royale was Takeshi, wasn't it?
No, this wasn't. That wasn't. He's in Battle Royale, but he's not the director.
Good point. Yep.
It's Rokuro Mochizuki is the director.
Yep.
It's a really good, realistic picture of the Yakuza at that time. Did I say 4? This film, Young Yakuza, is a documentary made by some French filmmakers. It glosses over some stuff, but it's a documentary. It's worth watching. Finally.
Oh no.
Okay.
No.
No.
Oh no! I fell asleep.
In the crappy American version. If you watch the actual 140-minute real version, it isn't as crappy as you think.
Well, wait a minute. No,
I saw it in a Japanese movie theater. I just fell asleep.
This movie sucked because you saw the American version, which had like 40 minutes clipped out. I'm saying it's reference. I'm not saying it's a good movie.
I saw it in Japan in a Japanese movie theater, and I just
See, I'm one of the people. I mean, if you recommend the first movie, Outrage, I'm gonna go. I want to check it out. But for me, I'm one of these people who takes.
Look, it's just reference. I'm saying like if you can find it in Japan
okay.
and see the uncut version, that it's actually pretty good. There are some scenes in there that are really authentic. I watch them and they resonate with me.
Okay.
Onibi is really good. The Outrage and Onibi films. The film The Yakuza with Takakura Ken and Robert Mitchum is a wonderful film. It doesn't really have much to do with the Yakuza in reality at all, but as a staged piece and as a movie about how the Yakuza would like themselves to be, it has its moments.
The 2 movies every foreigner knows before coming to Japan are.
Sorry.
Hanabi.
I'm sorry, I forgot. And the best movie about the Yakuza. After Outrage is Ninbo no Onna, which was directed.
Great movie.
Which has never been released on DVD in the United States.
Really?
Yeah. All his films are on DVD.
I got it on VHS then, because I do have it.
Yeah, I have it on DVD, like Japanese DVD, but I haven't. It has never been released on DVD.
Oh, in the States. Okay, gotcha.
But everyone watches like Karate Kid, Rising Sun, Black Rain. So what's your take on Rising Sun and Black Rain as authentic portrayals of the?
Oh, come on. Rising Sun.
Okay.
What's the guy's name? Wesley Snipes. He was in it, right?
We'll go another 15 minutes, but I promised myself I would go to bed before midnight, and I also got to take a phone call.
He's like a gremlin
at 11:45.
Yeah.
Don't pour some water on him. See what happens.
Pour some water.
So if I around like when it gets on 11:40, I'll probably cut us off. All right. First of all, Rising Sun, piece of crap. I don't have anything good to say about it.
Yep.
Karate Kid. I did karate. I like that movie. I mean, I don't know.
It's got Ralph Macchio. How can anyone not like Karate Kid?
He's frozen at age 23. Yeah.
And, well, it's the movie. I mean, my kids watch
Karate Kid's okay. I won't abide any bad mouthing of Karate Kid.
It's like kind of the Incredible Hulk sort of movie. Like, don't make me angry. Don't like me when I'm angry.
Okay, everyone.
One more. There's
wait,
one
more.
Wait,
Sorry. Okay, now the portrayal of the Yakuza in that film is way off. However, the portrayal of the sort of bureaucratic, organized crime cop that has to deal with these guys and is really reluctant to do anything, but is sort of goaded into are convinced to actually take action by Takakura Ken is really good. Because I'm watching that, and like after getting to know cops all through the years, there are cops like that. I mean, who are serious about their job but very bureaucratic, and kind of always trying to sort of do the job but feel kind of restrained in doing the job. And I thought his portrayal and the way the police was portrayed in that movie was really accurate.
Yeah.
I mean, that part was good.
One thing about that movie I found really interesting. I always thought Rising Sun was a piece of shit, but Black Rain, I remember when I watched it before I came to Japan years and years ago, and I just thought it was some crap movie which didn't make any sense. But
I like Black Rain.
Well, I rewatched it about 6 months ago for the first time.
I watched it about a year ago. Yeah.
And I suddenly realized that now, having lived in Japan and being a little bit more familiar, and of course it features, it's kind of like a who's who of the B-grade Yakuza movie, Japanese stars or whatever. And the more that I watched it, I realized, okay, it's set in Osaka in the late 80s. And I actually started to realize, holy shit, this is actually more credible than I gave it credit for at the time. I mean, I started to recognize like the police character, and like the in-ground it still is a bit caricaturish, but it's actually, if you were to put it against Rising Sun, I'd say it's got a little bit more credit, at least as a foreign-made movie, trying to do
Yeah,
that.
and they're surprisingly. I did the same thing. I watched Black Rain again after years of watching, and I think there are some moments that are actually resonate very well. The portrayal of the Yakuza did not.
Yeah.
But the well, the lead evil character sort of is almost like a preview of the Yakuza to come, sort of the corporate Yakuza with no morals and no ethics.
Yeah.
So that part was pretty good.
Yeah. I was interested. I reevaluated it slightly watching. I'm interested. So I'm interested. It is interesting that you had the same sort of impression watching it back.
How connected is the Yakuza with other international crime groups like the mafia, whatever's left of them? And
I don't think the mafia has any real presence left in the United States anymore. They are well connected with the Korean mafia, which shouldn't surprise you since there's so many Korean.
What about the Chinese thing? That's an interesting angle. Are they
With
competing or are they cooperating?
No, the idea that the Chinese mafia could exist in Tokyo.
I think that's called the government.
No, I mean, they're certainly as business partners, they may do some business with China and stuff, but there's no Chinese mafia that has any real power in this in Japan. And Singapore has become a wonderful refuge for Yakuza for setting up front companies.
Because they've got no capital gains tax, so they all go there.
Well, also they don't. As long as you're not committing crime in Singapore doesn't care what you're doing. I mean, the United States and other countries have constantly been on Singapore's asset. Singapore has this really clean image, but it is the place for setting up money laundering.
They've got those tiny little blue laws. You throw a cigarette on the ground, you get a ticket.
They also have this currency. I think they have like the equivalent of like a $500 bill.
Yeah.
And they have a casino somewhere in Singapore.
Which only foreigners can use, a Sands Casino.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'm aware of time as well. There's one other topic we did want to get to because Jake's been actually covering this, and it's kind of a hot story coming into this. And I know it was massively disappointing having this debacle live video before this. Completely lacking in class. Hikosaemon unrest, and I'm talking to you guys. But speaking of class, this Julian Blank guy. Here is a guy, one of the first guys to break this story in Japan, I believe. You caught it quite early. I was just hearing earlier. So, I mean, tell everyone what you told me. What's the timeline? How did this Julian Blank thing blow up?
Yeah. I want to hear that.
Here's the timeline, guys. I believe September 17th or September 19th. One of Julian Blanc's videos of his seminar in Tokyo, he posted on his page a week later. This woman named Miss Doom 99, you can find her on YouTube. She posts some really interesting videos comparing cultures. She takes his video and she dubs it in, and she doesn't dub it, she subtitles it in Japanese and puts it up, and slowly it gets looked at. So around November 1st US time at 1 a.m. little self-proclaimed tiny angry Asian girl, Jennifer Lee, or Jen Lee in the United States, sees a link to this video on Tumblr, and she is incensed. She's like, "Who is this asshole?" And
what was the date? What was the date on that?
That would be November 1st, 1 a.m.
1 a.m. He's got times for all of these.
Oh, well.
Okay, so she sees it. She gets really pissed off because in her words, you hear of a guy who it's white privilege, male privilege. It's not only that what he's saying is toxic and that he's portraying Asian women as like little dolls that you can grab and have sex with anytime you want, but in the video is actually grabbing women by the head and forcing their faces into his crotch, and grabbing a woman working in a convenience store who obviously can't get away and imposing himself on her. It's basically sexual assault on video, and these guys are yucking it up, and she gets really angry. So she starts trying to figure out who this guy is. She goes to his Twitter feed. She sets up her takedown Julian Blanc hashtag. She starts contacting people. She even tracking events. She even starts calling the hotels where he's supposed to be giving his seminars. So, I'm trying to remember when I first heard of it, but somebody sent me a link to the video, and at first I watched it and I think, well, he's an asshole. Yeah. But as you actually watch him, you think, wow, he's committing a crime. I mean, it's a crime. I've been a police reporter here I started as a police reporter in '93, so I've been covering crime more than 20 years now. And I'm thinking what he's doing is criminal, and he's getting away with it. So, I get in touch with Jennifer through Twitter, and it's so sometime around the 3rd, which is Bunka no Hi, I'm thinking, I'm not saying I'm dissing Japan. I'm very critical of Japan. And I thought for Culture Day, rather than putting up some article about, Japan's failure to reconcile with its imperial past or something, let's do something nice for Japan, which is let's write something to keep this asshole out of the country, because he is an asshole. It doesn't matter that he's white. He's just a fucking asshole.
White is okay.
So anyway, I write it up, I assemble all the information that I have, and I'm also figuring that this guy is going to start taking down things if the heat goes up. So, I use SiteSucker and various applications to save everything that he's put out. And I posted at 11. There's an application there's an application called SiteSucker.
Okay.
You're going to be very disappointed.
It records an entire website. Okay.
Wow. Cool. Very cool.
He tells the truth.
All right. Anyway, I posted 11:19, and I go to sleep. And then I wake up in the morning, and I forget what time, and I look at the Japan Subculture webpage.
His blog.
Yeah, it's a blog done by a couple journalists.
Yeah.
But right now I'm the managing editor. JapanSubculture.com, very easy to find. And there's like 18,000 shares, and I'm like,
18,000 shares.
18,000 shares. That means on Facebook and Twitter and everything, 18,000 people have shared it. So, and of course I sent a link to Jen before I went to sleep that night, and then I called the hotel to just sort of put in my 2 cents.
The Australian hotel.
What did you call it?
The Australian hotel.
The Australian hotel where he was next supposed to.
Yeah.
And actually, the person who answered the phone, who didn't identify themselves, as I was talking and I introduced myself, they're like, "I read your book," and I was like, "You read my book?" And they're like, "Yeah." They're like, "I liked your book," and I was like, "Are you sure it's my book, the one with the fish on the cover?" And they're like, "Yeah." And I was like, "Great." I don't think that really helped that much, but it was interesting that someone read the book.
Nice.
I thought that's a nice synchronistic karmic moment. Anyway, so I called up the Japan Times, who I write a column for, and I said to my editor, two editors, I really think we should do something on this story, because I run a blog that's kind of a niche blog, and I've got 18,000 shares, and it's only 9 or so in the morning, and people really seem to be incensed about this.
Right. Yeah.
They're kind of sort of like, at first it was a little bit like, isn't this just like an internet, not a big deal? And I'm like, you should look at the video, and you should also look at The Guardian posted an article about it, and The Guardian linked to our website. So, and I think it was more than my saying it. It's like, oh, if The Guardian writes about it, it must be news. So I didn't hear anything, and I was getting ready to go get lunch, and then I got a call from Ben Stubbings, who edits the community page, really nice guy. And he was like, "Yeah, could you please get us something in like 2 hours?" I'm like, "Okay." So it's not very exciting to be a writer, right? Because I'm not, at this point, there's nothing to do except sit at your keyboard and get all your materials together. And fortunately for me, Jen was really fast in giving me a response to why did you do this? What was your motivation? What did you hope to achieve? We put that up, and it went pretty viral. And then a couple days later, one Japanese woman and a American woman who's been a long-time resident here put together this petition on change.org. I know those people. I know Emmy and people running that, and the petition started doing really well. And then I knew that they were going to go take it to immigration on Monday. So I used to cover immigration as a reporter in 2004, along with customs. So I went with one of the petitioners, and the Asahi Shimbun came as well, which was really nice. And they turned in the petition, and then immigration. I talked to immigration for a while, and then immigration gave me your standard they can only give you sort of a limited answer because they're on the record. And then once we were off the record, it was kind of can you tell us sort of what is the whole deal with this asshole, more or less. I'm not quoting them directly.
No, they didn't.
That was the atmosphere.
Right. They didn't say aggressive cavity.
No, they didn't say a dating coach or anything. And so, I explained the whole sequence of events to them, just like I'm explaining it to you, and they seemed to have a very positive response to the petition, and after that he just seems to be getting his gigs canceled everywhere.
Yes.
It's not that you know, it's not that pickup artists are evil. I mean,
Mhm.
of course, men would like to sleep with women, though. You know, the idea of sort of women as sexual conquest, that you know, add them up like you're collecting Pokemon cards is a pretty repulsive idea. But that's my personal opinion on that. But it's the fact that the way that this guy does it and advocates doing it, including things like telling women that your son just died, or your sister,
Or father died, sister was raped.
yeah, that's really low. And then actually physically grabbing women who are socially conditioned not to resist, and manhandling them is not cool, and it's a crime.
Yeah.
And that's why you know, it's not just Julian Blanc. It's this whole attitude of it's okay to sexually harass women and abuse them that is unacceptable.
Yeah.
Oops, I got serious there for a second. Sorry. Yeah.
No, but great work on that, on immigration and everything. I'm glad to know.
Yeah. And, you know, and yeah, the guy's had a bit of a rough ride by the looks of it, but geez, I mean, you know, you put this stuff on, this is going to bounce back. This is the whole thing, you know.
That's karma. And it's, speaking of karma, I'm going to now end this with this little session because I got to go.
It's a little gone.
Here, to clear the mind.
I'm not supposed to be talking right now, so I'm going to be very quiet. There we go. Thank you, Jake Adelstein. Adelstein, very good to have you on the show.
Thanks a lot, man. Appreciate it.
And I am in Japan, as you can all see. And I'm going to go. So I'm going to go back to my house. But this is the first show we've done ever outside of our closets. I feel like I'm becoming less
Our basements. Don't.
Yeah, Mom, I'll be back soon.
Yeah. Mom.
So, thank you, everyone. I'm gonna sign off and pack up. But thanks. I hope everyone enjoyed that. These comments, geez, someone save the comments, please. Can someone do that? I'm gonna leave this open a little bit because please, someone do something to save these comments because I'd like to actually read them. I know that bloody YouTube making them disappear.
Way to do that. No way to save all the comments. I don't know.
Some people actually do it. Some people actually give me a PDF of all the comments after the video, which is amazing. The people who do it. But otherwise. Thank you, Jake Adelstein, and we'll be back next week, same time, and see you again next week.
Good night, guys.
Peace. Bada bing, awkward ending. No, it's actually not actually that awkward because I've got the stop button. It's right there. It actually works this week.